so excited.
It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
12:05 on Edmonton Sports Talk. Thank you very much for being here on a Tuesday. The Oilers play on Friday, so we will, we got a few days until they hit the ice again, but we got lots to discuss. Matt Kassian is not here yet. I believe he's coming today. Gage, I don't think he texted us and say he wasn't coming.
I don't. Yeah, he should be. Yeah, sure.
At some point, I'll fire. Let's see here. He's here. All right, Hernan will get him slotted in. It's Two Guys and Goalie. We are presented to you by GS Construction, setting the industry standard for 50 years with quality, efficiency, safety, driving their success. GS Construction has a foundation built on teamwork, and they want you to become a part of the team. Visit www.gsconstruction.ca and click Ready to Work, or visit their page at Indeed.ca. And with the Next Up Person program at GS Construction, it's not just a job, it is a career. Gager, how are you feeling, buddy? What's going on here?
No, I just, last night I had the scratchy throat. I thought it was just because I was dry, but then I got the chills last night, and just a sore throat. It's not awful, but it's a confined space. It's a confined space in the
office, in the studio.
In the office, and and you just getting back. I just didn't. One good thing about COVID, I guess, that taught us just to be, I don't know, maybe a little bit more respectful.
Of others.
We weren't before, but I just, you don't want to get other people sick and stuff. So thought, no, you know what, you're not 100%. Let's just stay home for a day, see how you feel.
Yeah, you definitely don't have what I had, because I had 32 days with no sore throat. So if you're feeling that right now, that's kind of weird. That's we did embrace yesterday when I saw you in the office, but I never had a sore throat. So
it's weird that we had an open mouth kiss. That's probably not a good idea. So you learn.
Lots of offices have open door policy. We have open mouth policy around here. You see somebody, that's what you have to do.
Firm handshakes for Tommy from now on. That's it.
That's right. Tommy, we got to check Tommy before he comes into the office every single day. Let's just say that. There's a reason Matt Kassian doesn't pop by as often. And it's probably because of the open mouth kiss policy. But he's going to join us today here on Two Guys and a Goalie as well. Nanzo's just getting that shot set up, and then we will get into the conversation with Matt Kassian. We got lots to get to. We got a few different topics on the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, if you're listening right now on TuneIn or iHeart, or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, and you have any questions or any things you want us to discuss when it comes to the Oilers or the National Hockey League, you can text us, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999, or, of course, you can hit us up over on the Nasty Chat as well. All right, let's bring in Cass. There he is. Matt Kassian, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's a busy day and just running behind. So I'm sorry, guys, for my tardiness. Just call me Tom. Just call me Tom.
Oh, geez. Well, where were? Oh yeah, you were on the chat on Oil Stream yesterday. You said you were just gonna pick Tommy apart.
And I didn't really. I mean, a little bit, but not.
You're too
crazy.
nice a guy, Cass. Right? You're too nice a guy to do that. I mean,
it's just for funsies. You know, just a little funsies. Yeah.
I would say the rest of us are probably harder on Tommy than you are. So so don't worry about it. We got that taken care of. Nielson, Cass, and Gage. We'll get to hired or fired a little bit later on. I got a movie question in there. I got Formula One question in there. I got 3 hockey questions in there, ready to go as well. Gage, we kind of hit this a little bit this morning, but the Edmonton Oilers, and we'll get to the game against the Rangers, Cass, when you are a little bit banged up, you take the time off as opposed to being disappointed that you have time off after you play maybe your best game of the year. I mean, how do you balance that? How do you weigh that?
Yeah. Man, it is a balance, isn't it? And it all depends on the type of player. I mean, I was a guy that I was way worse with time off. Like I played worse. I needed the touches. With that being said, you can still get practice time, but I liked being active and engaged with it. I just was I was better. With that being said, with you where the Oilers are and having some guys that are banged up, even though you just played your best game of the year, which is still just, it's insane to me, like how well they play. Like it baffles me. You know, how you see some of the games they play and they come out and they play that game against New York and you're like, wow, this team looks like a team that could win the Stanley Cup.
Yes.
All of a sudden. It's just insane. And it's like, well, this is kind of what we expected from the start of the year, them to maybe not hit that level every single game, but generally hit that level. And now you're walking it back, but they are so banged up that I think the rest helps them more than it hurts them from a momentum standpoint. I think it helps them more than it hurts them. And I know Darnell Nurse came back and played great. But giving him a little bit more time, Arvidsson and everyone else, like it's good to have a little bit of time if they're nicked up, which I think they are. So I generally, in this instance, am viewing as a positive. Now, if they were all healthy and then we all of a sudden had the time off, I might be a little concerned, might not be the right word, but I'd be like, I don't like the break.
Bummer.
But
I mean, that would be a bummer at that point, right? Like
that would be a huge bummer, but they're so banged up that I'm like, I don't feel that. I just feel that it's good for them to have a little bit of a break.
Gager, Cass brought up the play of Darnell Nurse recently. What do you make of his turnaround here right now? I mean, last year was inconsistent. Didn't think he started this year well. I don't know if we just link Kulak to helping him and having some success, but what are you seeing from Darnell Nurse, both before he got injured and then in his comeback here as well?
Well, missing some training camp, so he was behind the 8 ball, I think, a little bit. His game seemed to round out, and then it was just the carousel of D partners, right? That it's tough, especially with players that he's never played before with. Finally finding some chemistry with Kulak, and it's old Darnell. I think last year the whole team wasn't playing well. If you look at Darnell Nurse last year, probably I would say between like January to, March, or had a few hiccups in the playoffs, yes. But no, this is what I think we all thought Darnell Nurse would be. I think there's still another level that he could get to. But, man, he's playing some of the best hockey he's played in the last couple of years.
Yeah, the other,
he really is.
The other level that he could get to, as Gager's mentioning, is like what he's being paid, right? Like if he gets it to another level, then you're looking at the defenseman that got that contract after that one season that he had. Like he's not there, but he's here when he's been down here for a pretty good portion of the last 18 months, right?
Yeah, he's been down and didn't have a good playoffs. I think we can all admit that he didn't have a great playoffs. But he has had a really good start to the season, especially coming out banged up, where he has actually been really consistent. And there have been very few moments where we've kind of all looked at each other, and very few moments where I've sending messages to Hernan and Tom for the post game to be like, guys, what was he doing? Like, what was happening? Why did he do this? Like he's cut that down and maybe simplified his game a little bit. And that's really helped him. And that's what Darnell Nurse needs to do. Now, I still think Dusty to look at that contract value to say, oh, we expect him to get to that level, of what he's paid. I don't know if it's reasonable to be like, oh, we want to see an extra level out of him. If Darnell Nurse plays the way he's playing now, I'm going to be very happy with him, as all the rest of the Oilers fans should be at the end of the season.
Yeah,
and his
that's
play.
Fair. I was just saying, I think he's at a level below people stop bitching about the contract. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's
right. But we're probably not going to get there because he's not on the first unit power play.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and that, if we have to look back at when you had that season and generated the points, I mean, he was on the power play a lot and playing with those guys where that helped, where he was a power play guy, and he's a second unit power play guy. So he gets some points and we'll chip in on occasion, but he's not going to be that offensive driver in that regard. So don't expect him to get to that level, but just ignore the contract. Don't look at the contract. Just look at what he's bringing to your team. And if he continues to play at the level he's at, I mean, He's huge. And I think I said it before. You guys probably agreed with me at the start of the season when we're talking about, keys for the Oilers for the season. To me, Darnell Nurse is still the key for this defense. He is the key for this defense because, Ekholm, and I know there's been some up and downs with Ekholm and Bouchard, but Ekholm and Bouchard, generally, you're not worried about them if they play at the level that we've seen them play at and seen them play at in the playoffs. Like they're going to be fine. Even if they've struggled a little bit here and there and Bouchard has been inconsistent, they're going to be fine. Darnell Nurse was the one where you're like, in that second pairing, especially with the revolving door of partners, you're like, we need him to be really, really good. And he has started to do that, which is great. It's great for the Oilers. And if he can keep it up, as I said, I'm going to be thrilled. And I'm not worried about the contract value, but I'm going to be thrilled with him at the end of the season and hopefully at the end of a long cup season too.
I just threw this question out. And if you are listening on TuneIn or iHeart, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Please share your thoughts with us on this and Nasty Chat. I'm sure you will as well. Two Guys and a Goalie, presented by GS Construction. Huge shout out to the Sandman and his team over at GS Construction for being the presenting sponsor of Two Guys and a Goalie. But we talk a lot about Darnell Nurse and they mixed in Kulak there. I'm just curious what you guys think about this. Can Darnell Nurse and Brett Kulak be a second pair on a Stanley Cup winner? Gager, what do you think?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'd like to see where, like looking at Darnell's stats right now, 19 games, 10 points, 3 goals, 7 assists, +2. I wonder where that fits into his previous years. Like, I think he's a kind of ahead of schedule where he kind of slots in point-wise by the end of the season. I think the fact that he's putting up some numbers, just here and there early, and I think, Cass, you were mentioning it on a post-game show. Just, you're scoring a goal, you're going to start feeling better about yourself, right? That extra little bit of confidence and things. He scores a huge goal against Quick. He's just even being a little bit more aggressive. The night of the Wall of Fame when McTavish went out, I saw him after the game, and he was really like. He had a lot of juice. He got in a fight. He was into it. Like it just seemed like a different Darnell Nurse than, I don't see him that much, but I just was like, oh, this is a very confident dude right now. That's what I got from him.
Kaz, what do you think about Kulak and Nurse as the second pair on a Stanley Cup winner?
It could happen. It could happen. And the reason I say that is, again, if Darnell plays at this level, we have seen Kulak elevate. Yeah. And we have seen him be the Oilers' best defenseman in good playoff runs. So, maybe it's from a name standpoint, would you like to have more depth beyond that so that Kulak doesn't have to be there? Yeah, for sure you would. I still would like another right shot defenseman that can play on that second pairing. But as an option, you're kind of like, it forces you to not have to react if Kulak can play at that level. And can you do it? Yes. I still think you want the depth because if someone gets injured, 100%, it falls 100%. Off real quick. But if you had to, or let's say you brought someone else in and they got hurt, am I confident that Kulak has shown now his ability to play that offside and be successful there? Yes. Yes. So it's not like it's ideal. I don't want to head in with just these guys into the playoffs, but it doesn't force it, allows you to maybe not have to jump the gun and make a move too early. Or maybe it just takes off some of the pressure because teams know you're not just absolutely under the gun to bring someone in right away. Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things, like, I don't think anybody is saying, oh yeah, put Kulak with Nurse and ta-da, the blue line's solved. Like that's not what we're saying. We said this morning on the show, and we'll talk about Craig Button and the urgency to maybe acquire a defenseman. But if Kulak and Nurse continue to click, you still need to land a right shot D-man or a guy who can play the right side, who can either stabilize your third pairing so that you're not rolling out Stetcher, Emberson, and Dermott in the postseason. Because you can't just go with 4 defensemen in the postseason. And then you can have that guy who, if you need to mix it up, he's capable of also playing with Nurse, and Kulak can slide down onto the third pair, right? You got to get a guy that you would group into the 3, 4, 5, not another 6, 7 guy, because they've already got a bunch of those. K. Gill,
over on the Nasty Chat says, are you guys joking? Kulak is not a top 4 D-man in the playoffs, especially for a team that wants to win the Cup. Look at the D-core in Vegas and Florida. Well, that's true, but this is what I'm talking about on Vegas and Florida. We're 6 deep, right? Like if Kulak's playing with Nurse and they're a capable pair, you still have to go out and acquire one of the top 3 or 4 defensemen available at the deadline and solidify your third pair. Like you're not going to win a cup with 4 defensemen, regardless of who. If
Probably
Kulak
not.
or whoever, right? Like it's
probably not.
Yeah, I just don't see that.
Dusty, to Cagill's comment, like Kulak has carried teams from a defensive standpoint to the Cup Finals. Has he not? He did it in Montreal.
He was great on that Montreal run. He was
great on the
Montreal.
He was great with Edmonton in the playoffs. Like he has the capability to play high minutes, and I truly feel like Kulak is he's a gamer in the sense the games get big, he plays better. Like he really seems to up his level when the pressure's on. So again, like you said, it's not ideal. You want someone else in there, but if you got someone else and he had was injured, do I think that you could have those guys run as a unit of 4 and be okay? Yeah, I think you could.
Gager, what about the urgency to address the blue line? Like, does this have to happen by the end of December? Are you okay if they just pick up scraps at the deadline? Like, do they have to be the first team that sets the market and moves on a blue liner? Or where is that at right now, do you think?
I think it's a pressing need, but I think that when they've joined now, find that chemistry with Nurse and Kulak, I thought maybe well, maybe this is a Band-Aid until we figure things out. I think it's more. I think that it's kind of solidified. I like those two together. I think they've realized that they have something here, and maybe the search. I think it still needs to be maybe it doesn't go a 3-4, but maybe looking for a 4-5 at this point, just because of what's happened with Nurse and Kulak. It needs to be done sooner, though, Dusty. I said that this morning. You need time to have a guy into your organization. I think that bodes better for you to just build that chemistry, especially on the back end. But I don't know. I've been looking for different players. Is there you asked me this morning, is there a player in mind that you think that would fit that role? It's tough when I look at salaries and different things. You want a guy that can munch minutes. I just don't know how that's going to work with the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, in a perfect world, you want to be surprised by it. Like, I didn't know that guy was available. Like you can go out and the Oilers management does their homework and find somebody that's not necessarily really on a radar anywhere that can come in and who knows, maybe even under contract for a couple of years, which is like how you would like to see. Cass, when will it start to get late for you in acquiring a defenseman? Like, when will you be like, I'm surprised they haven't got one by now?
Ooh.
Mid-January? I
was going to say mid-January.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of think mid-January is the date. I was kind of chewing on between then and, the start of February. Mid-January, I'd be like, okay, time to get moving here, fellas. Like that would make sense to me.
I'm distracted a bit. These headphones, when I put them in my right ear, they keep kind of shocking me a little bit. Like it's just just a little prick, just like whoop. So I'll hang it over my ear here, and we'll probably be okay on that front. Cash, you said it right when we started Two Guys and a Goalie today when you came in, and it was one of my main topics I wanted to bring up with you guys. So I'll throw it to you first. Was the win over the Rangers the first time this year that you thought, okay, they're still Cup contenders? Or had you had that feeling somewhere else along the way?
Nope. I had not had that feeling somewhere else along the way. It was the first time against a good team, playoff team, Cup contending team. And I know they've had their challenges themselves, the Rangers, but a really good team where they look dominant. And it was the first time where I was like, there it is. There it is. Like that was the first time since the start of the season. I was like, oh, that's the level that these guys can play to.
100% agree with you, man. That was the first time I looked and I was like, oh, they still got this. Like I didn't, Gage, I guess that's why a lot of fans would be frustrated. Like we hadn't seen that game yet this year, as dominant as they were against a really good team like that. Was that the first time you thought they could still contend for the cup this year from what we've seen, or did you have that feeling against Vancouver? I know they played well against Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh is awful. So I'm not putting anything into that. But where are you at on that one?
Yeah, there were glimmers at the Pittsburgh game, but again, Pittsburgh was just so poor that how you couldn't put as much stock into that game as you could against the Rangers. The Rangers weren't, like I said, they weren't at their best, but I think they were hanging around that game where, you know, a bounce here, a break there, but they snuffed everything out. Anytime the Rangers had a push, the Edmonton Oilers pushed back. I loved the simplicity of the first period. Just, you know, there wasn't any of those hope plays. Not a lot of like backhand sauce plays. Everything was done in an effective, efficient manner. The whole first period with shots on net, traffic, finishing checks, being aggressive, and then, you know, the skill level that opened up in the second and third period. It was just, I think it was, what is it? Craig Button said on this morning. Connor McDavid looked like he was one of the all-star kids at the brick tournament. Yeah. And there's times when he does do that, which makes it ridiculous to do that. Yeah. But at the NHL level, but yeah, that was that's the Edmonton Oilers. I think that fans have been waiting to see. And it means I think it means a lot coming off that game against the Wild that they said, you know what, enough's enough. It's time to show who we really are.
The three words I love that you said, Gager: effective, efficient, and aggressive.
Yeah,
and that is just something we have not seen so far this season. Right, like and maybe the aggressive the most, where it was like they were. It not uselessly aggressive, like as you also said, they weren't just throwing hope plays to nowhere. It was efficient in what they were doing, but it was like everything and every play had a purpose, and that purpose was to score goals. That purpose was to eliminate opportunities for the Rangers. Like it was done very, very well.
Cass, it is weird to see somebody toy with the National Hockey League like McDavid did on that goal.
Yeah, cheat code.
I just don't know how somebody can make the NHL look easy. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, what a treat. Thank God they won the lottery, boys. Hey, like, I don't want to sit here and do a whole show on revisionist history, but nothing against Eichel, but my God, I'm very interested to see where this organization would be if they didn't win the McDavid lottery. Like, he's just he's a freak. He's completely as advertised. It's like I think, and you know, Edmontonians might hate this comparison, but when you're billed as that guy, and I look at LeBron James like he was the chosen one, and he's become the all-time leading scorer in the, you know, like when you come in with those expectations, and not only do you live up to them, but you surpass them, like that is all-time stuff. And as long as McDavid wins one cup along the way, I mean, 2 or 3 preferably, but he's even better than I think we all thought he was going to be. And we all thought he was going to be ridiculous when they got him in 2015. Like I'm at a loss of words for just the other level that he's on. It's unfair.
Yeah,
it's unfair.
There's the McDavid level. And then there's everyone else. I mean, look no further than the Chicago Blackhawks with Connor Bedard, right? Having a real tough time. He's not playing with the greatest players, but I mean, I read something. He was like under 30% in the face-off circle. I think he's only got 3 goals. The NHL is a very difficult place to succeed in. And that I think that generational talent gets thrown out too much on younger players. That doesn't help, you know, because look, there's no one even close to what McDavid's doing. It's just absolutely bizarre.
Couple of comments. C Run over on the Nasty Chat says nothing is more dejecting when you do a diving Hail Mary poke check and McDavid just moves the puck 2 inches to the left and walks around you like it's pedestrian. You know, it's just like, watches you slide by, moves the puck over here, walks in, hesitates, gets around the goalie. Like, just absolutely insane.
Even that goal, Dusty, the goal that he scored on Quick, like, Quick put his blocker down, and as soon as he did it, McDavid just fired it just over his shoulder, right? Like, he could have kept going and put it in the empty net, but it was like an insult to injury by doing that. I'm just going to put it just off your shoulder because you dropped your glove a little bit. It's crazy.
Rip City going, Buffalo in another dimension has Draisaitl and McDavid, right? They passed on Draisaitl and they lost the McDavid lottery. They were that close to being a really, 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 really good team. Who knows if they would have delivered a Stanley Cup over there yet, but still it's yeah, that's interesting to see. What's going on with Nuge? Cass, what do you think's going on with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins this season? What's he missing? Like, why is the production just not there? Is it just because the power play is not 35% and he's missing out on a lot of those? Or is there more missing from his game right now?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. And I think that's affected his ability to get in a rhythm offensively 5-on-5 to where, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a confidence issue or a finishing issue where he's not feeling the juice and not feeling the jam. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to say what he's been missing because even it's just goals and assists. He's been involved in putting pucks in the net.
He's been getting all the opportunity. Like, he's in the top 6. He's still in the top power play. Like, they haven't really moved him off of these really nice spots that he's usually in. And yet, Gager, the production's just like Hyman, I feel like has been robbed a few times. Like, and he's missed a couple that were I'm not even sure Nuge just got into those spots that Hyman's not finishing in right now. Gager, is that unfair? Is that an unfair assessment?
No, he hasn't. Usually you see Nuge dance a little bit. Like he's not a confident person right now. What was it? I believe it was the Minnesota Wild game where he has the puck right in the middle, patented for his he did a drop pass where usually if Nuge is even half confident, he's firing that twisted wrister just above the pad, just out of reach of the blocker at that point, going post and in, right? That's kind of his that's his shot. And for him to pass that up to someone else, he doesn't feel it. He needs
not feeling it.
He needs a few to go his way, maybe a bounce off the skate or things like that. Just something to feel a little bit better about himself and then start coming around. But saying that, I don't see him getting a lot of chances either. That's where it gets really frustrating. Like you said, sometimes you'll hear guys, well, I might not be scoring, but I'm getting chances, so I know it's coming. He doesn't even seem like he's getting in the right place to score. So that's what's probably hurting him the most is he doesn't even have the chance game to game.
What say you if you are listening right now on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com? Fire us a text 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Like, when you look at this group right now, Draisaitl and McDavid, I mean, 30 points, 28 points respectively. Bouchard's got 15 points. Then you get Nurse, Ekholm, and Matthias Janmark, who have 10 points. Nurse has played 3 fewer games, obviously, because of the injury. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has 2 goals, 9 points. He's on pace for about a 36-point season. Hyman's got 3 goals, 8 points. He's on pace for about, 35 to 38-point season and like 12 goals. Skinner's -9, by far, not even close, the worst on the team. He's got 4 goals, so he's on like a 16-goal pace, but he's only got 7 points. He's playing 13:44. Those other guys are logging over 19 minutes. Henrique's got 2 goals in 22 games. Arvidsson's got 2 goals in 16 games. Derek Ryan hasn't scored yet. Podkolzin has 1 goal. Corey Perry has 4, and Connor Brown has 3. But the Hymans, the Nuges, Skinner, who you brought in here, hoping for that offensive upside. You paid Henrique to stick around, and I know he's not in the top 6, but he's playing 14 and a half minutes a night. He's got 2 goals so far. And Arvidsson's been out. He's only played 16 games, but he too just had a couple of goals so far this season. Cass, I know we were talking about it on our show this morning, the deserved to win standings, which is, they take the deserve. You'll hate these. I mean, I shouldn't even bring these up from an analytics perspective. But the Edmonton Oilers should have, according to the analytics and games they deserve to win, the Oilers should be second place in the National Hockey League right now. So a lot of these guys aren't burying their chances. I mean, but it's not just one guy, it's multiple guys. So at what point, Cass, do you just, as a coaching staff or as a management group, do you just sit there and go, we just got to wait this out because these guys are going to get going at some point, or how else do you approach it?
Well, there is some of that, and I think we've seen that. Now fans get upset, and we get upset sometimes because Knobloch comes out and talks about some of the good things, and I don't hate those stats, right? I don't hate them because it's like, okay, it is okay to look at shooting opportunities and scoring chances and say, no, they've had a lot of high danger scoring chances. They just haven't found a way to score. They have a horrible shooting percentage. They haven't buried it. And that would directly affect the rest of the game and their ability to win. Now, I would hesitate to say they've played well enough because we've all watched them. Now, this is where you have to say, okay, what am I seeing, and do the analytics back it up? And to a certain extent they do, because it's like we've seen them miss those opportunities over and over and over again. But to sit and to say that this team has played at a level where they should be second in the league is completely asinine, because they don't deserve to be second in the league with how they've played. They've been too leaky defensively at times. They've given up too much. Their penalty kill has struggled for a variety of reasons, not all on goaltending.
Better lately, but still.
Better lately, yep, has been a big turnaround, which has been important and will continue to be important. But it's like, from a coaching standpoint, it's such a balance, because you're like, okay, we know some of these guys are getting opportunities, and we'll use Zach Hyman at the start of the season as an example, right, where he had so many chances and he just could not find a way to score. Like, it just wasn't going in for him, and he just chance after chance after chance after chance, and just wasn't going. But eventually it did. Now he's kind of hit that again, and maybe hasn't been generating as many chances where, he's struggling to put the puck in the net. But it's a balance, because you're like, okay, you need guys to finish, and you have some guys that have historically shown that they can and will, but you can't just sit and wait for forever. It's like, you can't. You have to have some patience in that scenario, but at the same time, you need players who are going to finish their opportunities. It's a performance-based league, and you could get, if you have 1,000 high danger scoring chances and you don't score a goal, you're not winning hockey games. And are you going to have to make an adjustment? Well, yeah, maybe they're getting all the chances, but if the guy can't bloody score and the puck isn't going in the bloody net, you got to do something. So it's a delicate balance with that, because you have to, again, like you assess, and analytics can be helpful in doing that, assess what you're seeing and assess what's going on. But the bottom line is, if guys still aren't scoring, even if the chances are there, depending on who it is, you still have to make adjustments and tweaks and get someone to a position where they're not just going to get the opportunity, but the puck is actually going to go in the net.
Well said. Great breakdown, I think. Gager, what are your thoughts on guys got to finish? I mean, you're paid money to finish opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, it's 22 games in, I believe.
Yep.
And goals for 2.9, goals against 3.1, power plays at 15%, PKs it's just 70.9%.
And that's what heater for 7-8 games, right?
Yeah. So, and I mean, this is where I think you can kind of look at analytics and go, okay, this is how the season's gone so far. Very mediocre. It's not nothing special. Those numbers have to turn around.
The power play was that, Gager?
15.8%. So
it really hasn't hit its stride at all here. Like,
no, and still 50. Like, I was actually shocked. I thought it was a little bit lower than that. So those things will change. The PK looks, I mean, I think it's gone, 25 straight kills. So that's coming around, and that was the main source of the Edmonton Oilers' strength last year. And you have guys that just aren't putting the puck in the net. So I can understand why they're saying they should be winning. But these guys, someone's going to have to start putting the puck in the net with names other than Leon Draisaitl and Podkolzin and McDavid.
Cass, what are your thoughts on the power play still being at 15%?
It's just baffling. It's baffling to me. I mean, but we've seen too much perimeter play. Like, they just, and a lack of execution, ultimately. Like, they have not executed on their power play. I mean, when you're able to connect with Leon, and he was like automatic scoring from his position, and it opens up other things. When McDavid was able to put the puck in the net and score, when Bouchard was getting the puck through, where this year he's not, he's at a million blocks and a million blocks in the power play. You know, you open up the ice and you have the ability to score, but it just feels like, even from a not necessarily in the zone entry, but from a setup standpoint, is like they're just haven't found that rhythm of puck movement that opens the ice up. Like they haven't. And it's baffling to me because they've been unstoppable the last number of years. And again, it's not like teams all of a sudden got wise to it. I use the example of Ovi all the time when we talk about this, and would use it again, where it's like everyone knows with Washington's power play the last 10 years, the power play is feed Ovi the 1T. And you can't ultimately take it away, or you try to take it away, and all of a sudden something else is going to open up and they're scoring you in a different way. Like, it just, everyone knows, what you like to do, but at the end of the day, from a power play standpoint, if you execute well, you have one more guy on the ice than they do, which means somewhere on the ice there's going to be a 2-on-1. And if you execute, you get opportunity. They just haven't done that. And it's, outside of not being able to execute, I couldn't tell you why. I mean, that to me is the biggest thing. They haven't been clean. They're not passing clean. The puck isn't moving clean. They're not efficient. And you to go to the three words Gager used earlier, like, they haven't been efficient. They haven't been aggressive. I can't remember the third word, but whatever. They just haven't executed. Maybe that was the third word.
Chief Andy says, guys,
was execution.
One word sums up the 22 games: lackadaisical so far, and I thought they were the exact opposite of that against the New York Rangers. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see where it goes from there. We're going to get to hired or fired here in just a second. But quickly, around the National Hockey League, Gage, your thoughts on the we haven't had a show since the Blues hired Montgomery, scooped him up quickly. The Bruins have fired 3 straight Jack Adams winning coaches who've all been rehired by somebody else with less, within 6 to 7, 8 days, which is crazy. So no surprise that Montgomery gets scooped up again. What do you think about the Blues deciding to make the move? Obviously, they think very highly. There's some organizational ties as well. His wife is from, it seems like a really good fit, and sucks to be Drew Bannister 22 games into your head coaching stint. That blows. But if you look at it from that perspective, for Ty Emberson, you have Ty Emberson, and all of a sudden one of the better defensemen in the league becomes a free agent and you can sign him, you're going to do it. You're going to try to make your team better. They view Montgomery very highly, but does it still surprise you a bit that they decided to do it?
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
From what I read about Drew, they were really high on him. He came up in the organization, right? By all accounts, he was doing quite well in the American Hockey League, a younger voice. I felt really bad because I played with Drew
did you play with him?
In Europe, I did. We played lots together. So it was disheartening. I understand it though. I guess it's weird. I'm more shocked that Boston let him go. That's more surprising to me than him getting picked up, just because he's been a really good regular season coach. I don't expect him to work miracles with that St. Louis Blues team though. I still think that they're the outside looking in on the playoff picture. They just don't have the personnel.
Guys, what do you think of the quick switch, the quick turnaround?
I was surprised. You do have a guy that's a younger coach that you just brought in. Not a lot of runway.
How would a team handle that? You just got this guy, and now he's gone. You got somebody else.
I don't know. You'd be a little shocked because you maybe felt like it's not your fault, right? Because sometimes it's that you got a guy fired and that you weren't playing well and that's the reason, but this feels like it's completely different. So it's an odd situation. I'm trying to think if has there ever been this situation before? Where you had a coach you had just hired that you were happy with, the team wasn't playing horrible. It wasn't like they lost every single game.
They weren't horrible.
Yeah. They weren't horrible. The team that really is entering a rebuilding phase for the St. Louis Blues. And a coach gets fired in a different team and you fire your coach to snap that guy up. I don't know if I've ever heard of that happening. So I almost don't know how I react as a player.
It does sound crazy when you like describe it the way you described it. You know, like it's, yeah, I don't know, man. And I'm interested in the Boston side of things. Like, I mean, Don Sweeney's been GM for like 9 years. I think we talked about this on an earlier episode already, but like, I don't know how much longer the guy's calling the shots. And like they got, obviously with Cam Neely, there's significant ties to the organization, but the Bruins are slowly getting dwindled away here, you know? And
Yeah.
I mean, you can't blame, I don't think you can blame the coaching staffs for that. So yeah, we'll see how they continue to sort that out. I thought that was a pretty interesting story though. Let's get to Hire It or Fire It. Brought to you by GS Construction. They are hiring now. Become a part of their great team today by visiting gsconstruction.ca or their page on indeed.ca. For the past 50 years, the foundation of GS Construction has been built on efficiency, quality, and safety. Take your career to the next level. Join the team today at GS Construction. All right, boys, hire it or fire it. Let's get into the conversation here. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Brett Kulak is the most underrated member of the Edmonton Oilers. Hire it or fire it.
Hire it. Definitely. Right now, I could say he's number one. Janmark's moving up there, though. He's playing really well. But consistently over the past, throughout Kulak's whole time with the Edmonton Oilers, definitely underrated.
Yeah, I want to disagree. I want to disagree for difference in opinion, but I can't.
I was going to say, to do so, you'd have to probably have somebody else that would be the answer.
I'd have to have somebody else that could be there, but I don't. I don't. No, he has been. And yeah, absolutely. So I got to hire it. He's the most underrated.
All right, hire it or fire it. You are excited to watch Gladiator 2.
Hire it. I mean, yeah, it's like Gladiator's still in my top 5 all-time movies. Love that movie.
Oh, you're a huge fan. I mean, I love it too. I don't think I go top 5, but I watch it all the time.
I go top 5. I go top 5. It is
it's
a fantastic movie. I mean,
if I'm working, I'll throw it on, Cass. I like it.
Yeah, my last, like not our dog now, but the dog we had for a long time, until we had to say goodbye to him last summer. So not this summer, but the summer prior. He was named Maximus after from the movie. So yeah, I mean, yeah, which says something about how I feel about it. I love the first movie.
Did you give him all 3 names? Right, isn't it Maximus?
Decimus Meridius.
Yeah, Meridius.
Meridius. No, and he on his registration, because he was a purebred black lab, so his registration was Maximus Decimus Kassian. That was his full.
Come on, are you serious?
His legal name. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did your dog ever look at you and go, "Are you not entertained?"
All the time. All the time. Yeah.
I'm really excited to see it. I don't know when I'm going to get out to the theater, but I really want to see it. Gage, where are you at on Gladiator 2? I didn't necessarily think we needed it.
No,
I didn't need it, but
yeah.
I'll watch
no,
it.
I'm interested.
Come on.
Denzel's in it. It looks kind of interesting.
Who's the other guy that's in it? He's super popular right now.
Isn't Pedro Pascal? Yeah.
Pedro Pascal. Yeah. He's great too.
Yeah, so I mean, half the time when I meet someone and I say my name and they don't understand it, I have to refer to Gladiator. Yeah. And you know who the bad guy is in Gladiator? And they say the name right. Oh, Joaquin Phoenix. I go, yeah.
That's right. That's my name. Yeah,
that's my name. Say my name.
Joaquin Phoenix was great in that movie too.
Oh,
such unreal.
Yeah, he was
such a good bad guy.
Oh, he was so good at that. That's a great movie.
Oh, they just made you hate him. You just hate him, right? Yeah, that's how you know it's a good bad guy. Is like you hate the guy's guts. Yeah,
like
when you hate him in real life too.
Brown after he kills his yeah, what a piece of garbage. Like he just I mean, I guess did Maximus have to lose? Like, is that how that movie had to go? Do you think, Cass? Yeah.
Yes.
I guess
it's a tragedy.
For it to hit the same
his
way,
wife, his father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife. Like, I mean, like that, and even the allegories it had. You had to, and the foreshadowing to it. Like, you couldn't have him survive with his family gone. You couldn't. Like what? Yeah. He didn't want to live ultimately, right? Like that's the whole.
Yeah.
What was he going to do? That's the whole. So his arc and, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see who gets to see it first, but I'm looking forward to it. All right. So this was I said underrated on the show this morning, and I went back and checked the article. It was from Maresha Tad, who does a great job covering the Winnipeg Jets. Said Connor Hellebuck is the most underappreciated goalie of this generation. Hire it or fire it.
Jeez, that's a
There's
weird
a significant
question.
difference between underrated
Fire
and
it.
underappreciated, I think. But
What do you mean by underappreciated?
Yeah.
How do we not appreciate him? He's been one of the top, if not the best goalie in the National Hockey League the last number of years.
like the
I
last
mean,
10
how is he
years almost.
underappreciated?
Yeah.
We frequently, maybe unless we're just living in a bubble, which I don't think we are. Well, maybe we are, but we're, from an idea standpoint, it's like, yeah, I don't think any of us would argue with that. If you ever said the last 5, 6, 7 years, Connor Hellebuck's the best goalie in the league, at not one point would I be like, let's fight. Like, I'm going to disagree with you on this, because he's been one of, if not the best, year after year, every year for the last 7 years or 8 years. Like, he's fantastic. So that's a bad take for me. He's not underappreciated.
I don't know how you would appreciate him more. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, here we do, and just because of the reasons over the time, the length of we've been doing this show, what other goalie do we talk about more than the Oilers goaltending? And I would say it's probably the play of Connor Hellebuck. The Oilers play them a little bit more, but when you're thinking of the best goaltenders in the league, he's right up there, right? I mean, I put him in ahead of Ottinger in the Western Conference. If I kind of lined them all up. Hellebuck's 1, Ottinger's 2. That little kid in Calgary is playing quite well. That Dustin Wolf. It's he's coming along. So
lately,
maybe
for sure,
maybe you start talking about him a little bit more. But he is the goalie that we probably talk about most outside of this market, just because of his brilliance.
in the West, for
and
sure.
it's-
Like out east, there's a lot of Shesterkin and Vasilevsky for a long time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
but
and
in the
we
West-
probably talk about them more if the Oilers were in the Eastern Conference, but we just don't see them that much, and we see Hellebuck a lot more.
All right, here we go. Let's go here. When Hyman and Arvidsson both return, Podkolzin should still be in the top 6 in the 6th spot. Hire it or fire it. Right, because Kapanen would be out, Hyman would slide in, Brown would be back down to the bottom 6, and the Podkolzin spot would still exist, I think.
So it's weird these days that they're getting. Like it's usually even days that they say a guy is injured, right? When they say like 5 to 8,
Yeah,
I don't know,
4 to
something in my
7
mind.
threw me off.
I get a weird twitch. I don't know what that means.
Just say a week.
But
Just say
I know, just 2 to 4 or something like that. It's much easier for me to understand for some reason. But if they're back next game, I don't think they are though, right? They're going. Are they ready for? Anyways, let's just say they're both back in. I think you have to move Podkolzin back down. Podkolzin's not a goal scorer. Okay, if things aren't going well, maybe then.
I mean, but who play like they would
But you
take
want those guys to get
Brown's
scoring.
spot. I think they'd leave him in there because you got Nuge, McDavid, Draisaitl, Arvidsson, Hyman, and who? And they seem to love playing with the guy. I mean, unless you
I know.
throw Skinner back up there, or Cass, what do you think?
I can't remember which was which. Was Hire keep? He's still
Hire
there.
it is he would be in the top 6 still. Yes.
Yeah, I think Hire it. I think at the start, Draisaitl seems to like him too much. So I think at the start, right when those guys come back, you got to hire it.
He would still be the left winger on that line. Yeah.
I think so.
All right, this one will be fun. Lewis Hamilton will finish in the top 3 of the driver standings next year at Ferrari.
Hire it.
You think so, Gager?
Oh yeah, the Ferrari cars come a long way. I think they're going to be what they are able to do so far. With a little bit more planning, they probably could have finished both on the podium there. Well, it would have been tough, but no, I think when Lewis gets a hold of this Ferrari car, he's challenging for a championship.
I think Lewis Hamilton's overrated, so I'm going to fire it.
You know what? Follow up to that then. I mean, Gage, obviously not. If you think he's going to finish top 3, his drive this past weekend, I mean, it looked like old times, cutting through the field.
I mean, we've seen Max do it, but there's all the extra footage. Seeing a lot of the Red Bull pit crew came and congratulated Hamilton on what he did, right? Because it was so amazing. It was a really cool performance by Lewis, where he was I don't know if he would have caught George. George was kind of saving the tires, but it was an unreal performance to get to P2.
It excites me to see him in Ferrari red next.
It's going to be weird. It's going to be really weird.
What's the race like atop the fantasy? Where you guys at? I don't want to come in between you.
Yeah, I won this last weekend. So made up a couple points, not a ton though, not a ton. So Gager's got a tiny little bit of a lead still. And I haven't made many changes at all. In fact, I haven't been paying attention because life has been busy. But yeah, Gager's still sitting on top. I'm 2-3, and Gager has now moved up into fourth on top of Matty for that fifth position. So it's gonna be tight, and for the constructors, it's gonna be tight
Gage,
down the stretch here too.
Is just that's a man who's gonna win some titles. I can see it.
I'm just a glimpse of Lewis Hamilton next year, guys.
Yeah,
that's what this is. All right, that's going to do it for Two Guys and a Goalie. Today, we will start to preview the others getting back into game action. They play Friday. Next Two Guys and the Goalie will be Thursday at noon right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Once again, Two Guys and the Goalie presented to you every day by GS Construction. They're hiring now. Become a part of their great team today by visiting gsconstruction.ca or visit their page on Indeed.ca. For the past 50 years, they've been built on efficiency, quality, and safety. Take your career to the next level. Join the team at GS Construction. If you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com or you're watching over on YouTube, EST Afternoons is coming up. Hernan Salas from here, Gager from there. That's going to do it for Two Guys and a Goalie. For Gage, Cass, I'm Nielsen. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. on The Nielsen Show. Have a great day.